He had been sent to LA County Jail after failing a court-ordered drug test 3 days earlier. A hearing on a motion by the district attorney's office to revoke his probation was scheduled for February of 1997. Suge's image only darkened during the next few weeks. On November 6, 1996, Knight was the subject of a report by ABC's Primetime Live that began, "Some say he's the most dangerous man in music." Though the ABC report later would be discredited because of its reliance upon the exaggerated claims of Vanilla Ice, plenty of damage was done in the short term, as investigations of Suge by both news organizations and law enforcement agencies seemed to crop up on an almost weekly basis. The most compelling media reports involved claims that startup money for Death Row Records had been supplied not only by Michael Harris, but also by another notorious drug kingpin, Ricardo Crockett. Suge had been stopped by police in Beverly Hills with a gun in his glove compartment that had been purchased illegally by an associate of Crockett's. Though convicted of transporting the gun across state lines, Suge won a grant of probation in federal court. At the same time, however, it was reported that the U.S. Justice Department had organized a multi-agency task force to investigate claims that Suge and Death Row were trafficking in both guns and drugs. The really bad news was that Steve Cantrock had become a federal witness. Cantrock worked for the conservative New York-based firm Coopers & Lybrand, but was known as one of the accounting trade's most colorful figures, a hippie-turned-hustler who enjoyed socializing with clients like the members of hard rock bands Slaughter and White Zombie. He and Knight had seemed to hit it off at first, but they began to bicker during the summer of 1996 over Suge's suspicion that Cantrock was skimming money. And when American Express filed a lawsuit claiming that Suge Knight, David Kenner, and Kenner's wife had run up more than $1.5 million in unpaid bills, Suge and Kenner said that the expenses had been incurred by their rogue accountant, Steve Cantrock. Things came to a head at a meeting in the backyard of a San Fernando Valley home owned by singer Michelle. From county jail, Suge told reporters the meeting was Cantrock's idea and described what happened this way. "After I caught him stealing millions of dollars and confronted him, he started crying. I said, 'Okay, Steve, don't get so bent out of shape.'" Cantrock's account was considerably different. Suge showed up for the meeting accompanied by not only David Kenner, but also several of his blood henchmen, Cantrock said, then began the meeting by stating, "All right, cut the bullshit, Steve. How much did you steal from me?" Before he could respond, Cantrock said Suge doubled him over with a punch to the solar plexus. As he sank to the ground sobbing, Cantrock said, he heard Suge tell someone that he wanted a confession. David Kenner produced a handwritten document moments later and passed it to Suge, who handed it to him, Cantrock said, and told him he better sign it. Convinced he would die if he didn't, Cantrock said he wrote his signature. The accountant promptly disappeared. A security guard was posted in the lobby at the Los Angeles office of Coopers & Lybrand, where receptionists told callers that Cantrock was away on stress leave. Word swiftly spread that Cantrock and his family had fled the country, but by late December of 1996, the Los Angeles Times was reporting that Cantrock had become a federal witness and would supply the U.S. Justice Department with reams of documents detailing Death Row's financial dealings over the last 3 years. Even as Suge hired Milton Grimes to represent him in the criminal racketeering investigation being conducted by the feds, he was forced to defend himself against a civil racketeering lawsuit filed by Afeni Shakur that accused Knight, Kenner, and Death Row of a pattern of fraud and deception in their dealings with her late son. Suge answered by claiming that, in fact, the Shakur estate owed him millions for monies advanced to Tupac and his family. Afeni asked reporters how it was possible that Tupac's albums could generate more than $60 million in revenues for Death Row, while the artist himself received less than $1 million in royalties. After American Express filed its lawsuit against Death Row, creditors came out of the woodwork. One lawsuit asked for $75 million and sought to have the record company put into receivership. Suge's mentor, Dick Griffey, joined forces with the DOC, meanwhile, to file a $125 million breach of promise lawsuit against Death Row. More